I'm Coach Corey Wayne, and this is my video coaching newsletter. And the topic of this newsletter is going to be, why am I not good enough? Well, I've got 3 emails I'm going to go through with you today, and what we're going to go through is talk about our own internal self-talk and dialogue, and not only how it can affect you in the dating and the relationship world, but in your life in general. And I've got a quote that I want to share with you because this is something that everybody struggles with. I remember almost 10 years ago, I was at a Tony Robbins event. It's called Date with Destiny. It was out in where the hell was it? Palm Springs, California. And so at this particular event, I met one of my girlfriends at the event. And you've probably heard me talk a lot about how like attracts like. And as we were getting to know each other at that event and just talking, there was this one process that Tony takes you through, and it's to help you figure out what your primary question is. And all of us, every single human being on the planet, has at least one primary question that's always in the back of their mind, and they're always asking themselves. And the thing that I found was fascinating was when I got to the end of the process, is my question was basically, why am I still not happy? And this particular girlfriend of mine, she had the same exact primary question. She was just like me, very successful, high achiever, had always accomplished the things that she'd gone for in her life. But despite that, despite all the great things going on in her life, and she's one of the most positive women I've ever known, ever dated, ever met in my life, and she still is this day. She's really a cool chick. But she had the same thing. It's like, why am I still that happy? So it's like, when you have these beliefs, and like for me, when I look back on my childhood and the fact that my parents didn't say I love you, they didn't hug us, they didn't kiss, they never said I'm proud of you. It was usually getting a beat down or yelled at when we didn't do something right or we didn't live up to their expectations. And so as a little child, you start to question, it's like, is there something wrong with me? Is there something that I'm doing? Am I a bad person? Am I not smart enough? Am I stupid enough? Am I ugly? Am I just weird? Am I an ugly duckling? Whatever it happens to be. But it's like when you think like this, and because you, as a child, you look for an explanation as to why things don't happen the way that you expect, and your mind has to find a reason. Because if you, whatever you ask yourself, your brain's going to come up with an answer, whether it's a good one or a bad one, whether you're asking yourself a positive, empowering question or a disempowering question. And we carry these things into our adult life, and they can really cloud our own personal judgment and inhibit us from really living and achieving our full potential in life. And even despite all that, despite the fact that I always had this, why am I still not happy, I was always driven to succeed internally, and that's why when I was in my early 20s, I got into Tony Robbins stuff. His 30 Days of Personal Power set of CDs, this is back in the early 90s, and I really applied it because I was really struggling in college to finish. I didn't understand how my own internal negative psychology, just my self-talk, was sabotaging my success. As you've heard me say before, people do more to avoid pain than they'll do to gain pleasure. That was something I learned from Tony 25 plus, I can't believe it was that long ago, years at this point in my life. And what I realized was that the things that I wanted to do and my fear of them not working out, it's like my fear was greater and more powerful than the potential pleasure of achieving or doing the things that I really wanted to do. And because the pain was more real, because that's just the negative self-talk I had and what I was focusing on, I avoided taking action that I know I needed to take, because deep down I was afraid, what if I fail? What if it doesn't work out? What if I'm not good looking enough to get the kind of woman that I want? What if I'm not smart enough to finish college? What if I'm not smart enough to figure out how to build a successful business? And you have those kinds of fears, and so we just tend to gravitate towards what's safe and what's easy in life. And if you don't have a good strategy for success, like say it comes to dating members of the opposite sex, not only do you have a negative, disempowering, limiting belief, but you don't have a good strategy. And so even though you may want something, you may go through many months, many years of not succeeding, not achieving, or you had one really good experience, but other than that, most of your experiences aren't very good, aren't very positive, or they tend to be more negative. It can inhibit you. It's almost like having concrete shoes that keep you from moving forward towards what it is that you really want in life. So let's go ahead. I'm going to go through this quote that I wrote, and it says, the quality of your life is in direct proportion to the quality of the questions that you consistently ask yourself. Most people have negative and disempowering self-talk and self-questioning that presupposes negative answers. It is important to monitor your internal dialogue and ask yourself better quality questions when you find yourself asking questions such as, why am I still not happy? Or why am I not good enough? This will enable you to redirect your mental focus onto more positive and empowering questions that will elicit better quality answers. What you focus on expands. And by focusing on what you want and what you can find to be happy about in your life right now, you will force your brain to find positive and empowering answers to persevere even when life sometimes feels hopeless. So let's get into the first guy's email. He says, hey Corey, I've been watching your videos and reading your book, and they've really been helping. It's great that I'm only 22 and already have access to this information. It's interesting, like when I was 22, when I was his age, was like when I was really starting to apply the stuff that I was learning from Tony Robbins in earnest. It was completely changing the way I looked at things, where it came to motivating myself to go work out when I didn't feel like it, or motivating myself to study when I didn't feel like it, or I was afraid that I wasn't smart enough to pass that particular class. One of them was calculus I really struggled with. But it's like once I really applied myself and broke things down into little daily achievable goals, did a certain number of problems each night, I actually ended up getting an A in calculus, and I dropped it 3 fucking times where I was literally failing out of the class because I would always put everything off to the last minute. I would always procrastinate because the potential pain of finding out that I wasn't smart enough to pass calculus, and that my mother was right, I really was stupid, and all the negative things that she used to try to say to motivate me, it was more real than the pleasure of potentially finding that out. So it's like I have just avoided it altogether. He says, I'm sending this email to get your advice on the thing which I've been having the hardest time with, which is rejection. Well, one thing I want to say about rejection is part of life. If you're going to date, you got to get through the no's in order to get to the S's. And as a matter of fact, most of the time, you're going to get rejected. Most of the time, you're going to fail. And people who tend to be successful in life, or the type of people that you perceive as being successful, those people become really good at accepting and anticipating failure. They expect, you look at a baseball player. A guy that bats 300 gets paid significantly more than somebody that's batting in the 200 range. We're talking millions and tens of millions of dollars difference in his annual pay. But when you look at it, out of every 10 at bats, the guy that's making the most amount of money, he's still failing 7 out of 10 times. And the guy that's significantly making less, he's only failing 1 more. So he's basically failing 8 out of 10 times. You think about that for a second. You don't see a baseballer going, I didn't get a hit. I'm just going to give up and fuck this sport. It's like if you're going to be in sales, if you're going to be successful at dating, you just have to understand, it's like, because attraction is not a choice. And so when you interact with a woman and you want to ask her out on a date, at the end of the day, she's either going to say yes or she's going to say no. And what you really are trying to do is figure out, are you in or you out? It's as simple as that. Because if she really likes you, she can't help it. She has no choice over that. You just push her buttons. But what happens to the average guy is they think they have to go through all these routines and these jokes and magic tricks and all this other bullshit and prove himself to her. Instead of just saying, hey, you're amazing. You take my breath away. I'd really love to meet up with and have a drink with you sometime. When are you free to get together? That presupposes success. Now, most of the time when you say that, you're not going to be successful, but that's okay. You got to understand that it's just part of the process. And at the end of the day, all you need is one really great girl. So what if it takes you 500 rejections to get one really great woman? Think about that. One great girl and you have months and years of happiness and success. And the good thing is that when you start having successes, it starts to replace that old negative behavior. Like for me, coming from the environment that I came from, it's like I had one success, then a second success, then a third success, then a fourth, and a fifth, and a sixth, and so on and so on. And it's like each one of those successes helped destroy that negative limiting belief that, what if I'm not good looking enough? What if I'm not handsome enough? What if I'm not attractive enough to get the kind of girl that I really want? I mean, at the end of the day, you're designed to be with a woman who knocks your fucking socks off and who she feels the same way. Because think about it. Just an average woman, you're not going to be that into her. You'll like to have sex every once in a while to have a release. But after a while, it's going to get pretty old, pretty boring. But you're really into that person. If not only you think she's the hottest thing in the fucking planet, but you love talking to her, you love interacting with her, you have a great time with her, and you never run out of things to talk about, it's amazing. That's the way it's supposed to be. That is your birthright. But the only thing that's getting in your way is either the strategy that you're employing or the things that are going on between your ears that prevent you from taking the action because you're afraid of the potential consequences. He says, I was at Costco earlier today seeing if there was anything that I needed from there when I saw a really attractive girl in a nice dress. My instinct was to go up and say hi to her, so I did. I went up to her and asked, "Hi, how's it going?" To which she replied with something to the effect of, "Good." Well, right off the bat, one word answer. Is she really that into you? Probably not. Because if she was really into you, she would have said, "Oh, I'm doing good. How about yourself? How are you doing?" She would have participated in that conversation. But you're obviously just learning this stuff because you're young, which I think is amazing at your age. It's like you're going to get to experience all the things in your 20s that I fucking missed out on and totally fucked up. So it's like, dude, you're starting out way ahead of me because you're learning 25 years of wisdom in a short period of time by reading my book and watching these videos. So I'm excited for you, dude. Your life's going to be infinitely better than mine was when I was at your age, as long as you continue to take action and apply the things that I teach. He said, I then tried your technique to read her attraction level and asked her what her name was. She replied, Samantha. I paused and waited to see if she would ask me the same thing in turn. She didn't. That means she's not interested, dude. Don't take it personally. It's just you found out what you needed to know. Move on to the next. Well, hey, have a great day. So then he says, she didn't, but for the sake of not making the situation awkward, I said, I'm Bob. Nice to meet you. There was a pause, and I asked her how her day was going, to which she responded, fine. One word response. She ain't that into you, bro. But awesome that you fucking tried. That's it. It's like going up there and swinging. It's like you miss 100% of the pitches that you don't swing at. But here, you fucking took a shot. Now you know. That's the whole reason why you interact with her. Are you in or you out? She's definitely out. Don't take it personally. Move on to the next. He says, I couldn't think of anything else to talk to her about. See, that's what happens. You can tell she's not participating. You can feel the vibe's not there. And it's like your mind starts to go blank. Just move on, because a girl who really likes you, she'll be glad you came over, and she'll want to talk to you, and she'll want to get to know you. And you'll see the enthusiasm in her eyes when she looks at you. She won't act like this. He says, as I didn't really care about the products that she was buying, and that would have just come off as fake. So he says, I walked past her trying to think of something to say and turned back, and all I could think of was, do you go to school around here? To which she responded, I'm in a hurry. And I said, okay, and then I left. She clearly wasn't, as she had been texting prior to me talking to her, and she was walking normally after I had talked to her. I passed her one more time before I left the store, and she glanced up to me. If anything, my indifference was probably the best reaction. Exactly. Never let a woman uncenter you. At the end of the day, her effort sucked. She wasn't that into you. Don't waste your fucking time. Don't take it personally. You found out everything you need to know. That was the whole purpose of interacting with her. Because now you can walk away from it and go, hey, I tried. The girl wasn't into me. Next. It's just a numbers game, man. It really is. He says, I'm a friendly guy that gets along with most people that I talk to, and if we don't, it's usually because of them. Exactly. No one will ever do or say anything that isn't a direct reflection of how they feel about themselves in a moment. She just wasn't interested in talking to you. She wasn't that into you, and if she'd looked up and gone, oh, wow, he's really handsome, her eyes would have got real big, and she would have started smiling, and she would have participated in conversation with you. He says, I know I'm good looking because I get complimented on my eyes and looks frequently by women I talk to and from customers where I work. And good-looking women show signs of interest in me from time to time, smiling, saying hi, telling me, cheer up, beautiful, etc. I'm just citing this example because I felt a bit depressed leaving the store thinking, I'm worthless. Why did she brush me off like I'm a nobody? Well, I mean, at the end of the day, you really were nobody to her because you didn't move her dial on the attraction scale. So what? It's her fucking loss, and you should feel that way. Because you get all these other, it's like you get all this other praise from all these other women. You're like, this is like this one girl that you went and talked to that you liked. She couldn't have cared less. He says, then I think that the experience is going to ruin my chances with every other girl, thinking that she somehow has to know I'm having a good time, even though there's no way of her ever knowing. I got another girl's phone number who was pretty cute earlier today, and I'm going to call her in a couple of days, and I'm just thinking because this happened, now I'm not going to have a good time. Well, I'll tell you what, if you call her and she makes a date and then you actually show up and she's excited to see you, you'll completely forget about this other girl that rejected you. That's why you keep moving forward. You got to keep taking effort. You got to keep finding a way to grind it out. He says, I have that reaction anytime I'm rejected by a woman and usually end up calling my family to get me grounded again. Well, it's awesome that you actually have a good family that is going to have something positive to say. He says, I know deep down I won't not have a good time with this other girl, but I don't like that reaction and the fact that it might mildly affect me. Again, you can't always control the circumstances of your life. In this particular case, you can't control her reaction to you. It's not your fucking problem. You are not responsible for how that girl feels about you. You don't have any responsibility for it. It's not a big deal. So the only thing you have control over is what it means to you. And a positive, empowering way to look at that is, hey, I asked, and now I know. I've just eliminated. It's like Thomas Edison. When it came to inventing the light bulbs, he was like on 7,000 something tries. It took him 10,000 tries to find the right filament to make the light bulb work. And this guy was like, you've tried 7,000 something things? He's like, are you fucking nuts? The guy says, I've just found 7,399 materials that didn't work. I'm one material closer. And the guy was like, that's why he achieved such amazing things, because he just didn't quit. He just knew it was a process of elimination. And that's the way you gotta look at it. You want to find one really great girl who knocks your fucking socks off and who feels the same way about you, and you have a great connection with, great chemistry. It'll naturally flow. It'll be easy. When you go to make a date, she'll be like, absolutely, and she'll want to get your number, and she'll probably call you or text you a day or two saying, hey, I'm really looking forward to meeting you for a drink. He says, my dad told me Costco isn't the best place to pick up women, and I agree, and there wasn't much fodder for conversation between two strangers. That's bullshit. That's absolutely bullshit. But at the end of the day, if the girl had liked you, it would have been a completely different reaction. So don't take it personally. Don't let that inhibit you from the next time making an effort, next time you're there. So he says, thanks again for your videos and your ebook. I hope you're doing well. I'm doing awesome. Great email. Thanks for writing that in. So let's get into the second guy's email. He says, hey, Corey. I was guided to your work and I love it. I'm a 50-year-old guy and I've been married and divorced 6 years ago, and 3 years later I met a fairly hot girl on online dating. And I wasn't totally attracted to her, but I loved her personality and her hot little ass. I want you to have somebody that knocks your fucking socks off. And at the end of the day, it's great that you hooked up with this girl and you had an attraction, but you got to learn to trust that feeling, because what you felt for this girl, you're like, well, I'll give it a shot. You got to be with somebody that knocks your fucking socks off, because this is what most people do. They're just so desperate to get somebody in their lives, they settle for the first person that comes along, and then you find out about all their warts later, and you realize this really fucking sucks. But what's interesting is you got to learn to trust that feeling. And you don't want to make the mistake of getting in a long-term relationship or getting married to someone like this. Because I had one of my high school buddies, my college buddies, he had this girl that used to come over at like 3 in the morning. We would go out and party, and if he struck out, didn't meet anybody, he'd call her totally shit-faced at 3 in the morning, hey, come on over. He was just a dick to her, and she'd come over any hour of the day and night and fuck him, sleep with him, and then he'd kick her out, he'd be rude to her, and she just kept coming back for more. And he wasn't that into her. And I remember when I moved away to Orlando a couple years later, he ends up marrying this girl. He had a family with her. And he didn't feel anything for her. It's just like he just kind of gave up on what he really wanted and settled, like, oh, okay, well, it's like no matter what I do, this girl sticks around. So she's fat and nasty, and he's overweight and doesn't take care of himself, and they're fucking miserable. This is what the average person does. I mean, think about it. The divorce rate is over 65%. And that's what the average person does. They don't even fucking try. They just go along with life and they just kind of fucking settle. We weren't put on this earth to just be fucking mediocre. One of the things that Nick Saban, who's the basketball coach, or the football coach of the University of Alabama, he said, mediocre people don't like high achievers, and high achievers don't like mediocre people. And what he focuses on, he doesn't focus on winning the game or strategizing. Even if they're 10 points down or 10 points ahead, it doesn't matter. What he has the whole team focusing on is every single player, when they're out on that field, they're giving absolute 100% best effort that they can give. Every single play, every single down. And if he can get them to do that, everything else will take care of itself. In the last 4 years, he's won 3, his teams, I should say, have won 3 out of the last 4 national championships. And he also had won a national championship about 10 years ago when he was with LSU. So he's coached 4 national championship teams. That's absolutely fucking amazing. Think about that for a second. Don't be like the average mediocre person that just fucking goes along to get along in life, because you're going to make yourself miserable. It's too short. At some point, you're going to be out of days and hours, and your journey on this planet is going to be over. So you might as well spend it doing something you really love and doing with the kind of people you really love. And when you meet somebody that's just kind of like, have fun with them, but don't get stuck on them. Don't get stuck in a relationship and waste months and years of your life when it's just not doing it for you. You want somebody to knock your socks off, and you deserve to have that. But if you give up and you settle, you're not going to have that. So he says, I wasn't totally attracted to her, but I loved her personality and her hot little ass and the hot sex. We had lots of fun too, but she ended up moving in with me way too early, 6 months in. I also let her teenage son move in as well. And then everything was good, but she was unable to find a job, and then she had to go on government assistance to help pay the rent. She basically got lazy, and so did her son, and they were dragging me down, and I ended up paying for just about everything, but she did help pay rent. After a couple of years, I had had enough resentment, and I didn't feel that I was in love with her, and my kids were miserable in my own home with me. That sucks. That's what happens when you settle. You got to learn to trust that little voice that's going, she's got a great little ass and sex is great, but she's not what I really want. He says, I kicked her out and her son, and it took a lot of balls to do, and within a few days, she attempted to take her own life. It was shocking, and she had her family come get her stuff, and her friend said for me to not have her come back after her recovery because she's unstable and shouldn't be around my kids. So I did it. He says, I regret it now. You should regret it now. The only reason you're really regretting it is because you feel guilty. It's not your fault that she's messed up emotionally. It's not your fault that she has mental problems. It's not your fault that she was lazy. It didn't contribute to the household. That's why you should have dated her for a lot longer than you dated her, and you would have seen all this bad behavior. But obviously you were recently divorced, and you were just happy to meet a new chick. Maybe you thought, hey, I'm 50 years old, I can't do any better. That's the worst type of thinking that you can have, because you deserve to have a queen, a fucking goddess that knocks your socks off. But when you settle and you waste a couple of years of your life with someone like this, you delay that really amazing person coming into your life. He says she moved in with some family members, and she finally got a job after she moved in there, and our breakup. And now, having had the time to reflect, I really do love her, and my feelings have grown over time. It's just at the end of the day, you're probably a little lonely because you haven't found anybody better yet, but that's okay. You got to keep searching. Because at the end of the day, she's not going to be a different person. She's not going to change. She's still the same lazy person that she was when she was living with you. And she moves back in with you, and then she loses her job. What do you think is going to be different about that? You don't respect that kind of an attitude or that kind of personality. And obviously you don't feel it's good for your children. You already kicked her out once before. If the relationship didn't work the first time around, especially with this kind of, it ain't going to work the second time around. He says she's been chasing me. We continued dating, but her family has written me off, and her sister and the rest of her family doesn't want me involved in her life. My question is, I feel like I may have lost a good catch. No, dude, she ain't a good catch. I'm sorry, but because I wasn't patient. She now won't make any dates, and my feelings have completely grown for her. Yeah, it's because now she won't make dates with you. but you're just totally in a fearful state and you think you really care about this girl. But if you got back together with her, after a few months you'd realize she's still the same person that you got totally turned off with before. All the things that turned you off about her in the beginning, they're still there. She didn't change. She didn't become somebody different overnight. He says she's a really great person and we really did click. Yeah, until you kicked her out of your house. She's on medication and she seems to be doing well. Do I let her go? Absolutely, dude. It's like you deserve to have somebody that's got her shit together. It's not your job to fix her. He says, will her family forgive me or do I chalk it up as a learning experience? Hey, dude, she was the first girl you hooked up with after your divorce. And it's like, that's what happened with me in my first marriage. I basically married the first really great long-term girlfriend that I had. She loved the shit out of me, and I loved her, but I wasn't in love with her. Big fucking difference. It was a big fucking mistake. And not only did I put myself through a lot of emotional pain, but I obviously put her through a lot of emotional pain because I was basically a fucking weak-ass bitch. I didn't know any better. I was young. And I didn't have any examples to follow my own family. And this is what a lot of people do. Be glad that you grew a set of balls and you kicked her out because that was the right decision for you, and you need to trust that. He says, this experience has totally changed me, and I think she and her kids are good, loving people, and we were really good together, and it was the money that brought on the resentment. It was more than that. It was the fact that she didn't do anything to help herself. You got to participate in your own rescue, and at the end of the day, she only got a job once she realized that she had no other choice because her family wasn't going to obviously support her. He says, I think at the time I thought I could do way better and now I'm questioning myself for how I feel when I see her. Exactly. You knew you could do way better than her. And that's the real reason why you didn't want to be with her anymore. You got to trust that, dude. If you get back together with her, those same feelings will return. That is your truth. Your feelings are your truth. You got to learn to trust that. It will never steer you wrong. He says this weekend was her weekend off and she was too busy with her family to see me. And this is the second time I've tried to make a date with her. I tried getting her to commit to Sunday by saying that time I will see you, but she wouldn't commit after saying she could see me this weekend. So I got pissed and said, I have to go. Let me know when you have time to see me. My gut says to walk and never look back. Follow that. He says, but when I'm with her, everything is different, and I love her, and I know she loves me. And she told me, and I looked handsome 2 weeks ago when I took her to a concert. She would start texting and chasing again, but is it a dead end? I would say yes. Give me your thoughts. I would really appreciate this. At the end of the day, she reaches out to you, make a date, hang out, have fun, and hook up. Keep her as a sex playmate until you meet somebody else. But don't call her, don't text her, don't make any effort. Let her come to you. Let her call you because she's not what you really want, dude. And at the end of the day, life's getting shorter. It ain't getting longer, it's getting shorter. You deserve to have somebody great and spectacular, but it's not going to happen if you keep trying to go back and recreate what didn't work out the first time. So let's get into the third and final email. This guy says, hey coach, I want to thank you for your previous video responses, especially your most recent one, she loves me not. I realized my bullshit thinking a few hours after that I sent it in, and I knew what kind of response you were probably going to give me. I guess I really twisted the knowledge in your book to my negative state of mind, and you were right. And there are two questions that are negative, which are, why am I still not happy? And number two, why am I still not feeling good enough? It's like at the end of the day, at some point in your life, something happened and you didn't feel you were good enough. Like for me, it was the fact that no matter what I did, I could never get the attention, the approval of my parents. Like my dad just basically ignored us, and my mother was just kind of the same way. They were just cold and indifferent. And both of their parents, both sides of the family were like this. So it's like that they were just simply acting the way they learned from their own particular parents. And that, you know, as a child, when you start looking for answers, it's like, this doesn't make any sense. I love my parents, but it's like they seem like they don't care, or they just beat the crap out of me when I do something wrong. It's like, what's the deal? And you think, oh, there must be something wrong with me. Because you're asking crappy quality questions, and then it's like, you think about it, day in and day out, month after month, year after year, as you're growing up, and all the years and time that you spend with your parents until you become an adult, it becomes a pattern of thinking. And it takes time to undo that type of thinking. It's not the kind of thing that'll happen overnight. You just snap your fingers like that and then it's over. It's a process. It's a process of continuing to grind it out, of continuing to catch yourself when you find yourself going, why am I still not happy? Instead of saying, what could I, even though my life is not exactly the way I want it today, what could I find in my life that I'm happy about right now? Well, I got my health. Well, I got my friends. I got people who care about me. I'm doing something I really love. Or I'm in I've got a job that's paying the bills, but what I really love, I'm working on that on the side. And I know someday, maybe 5-10 years from now, I'll really get to where I want to be if I just keep staying on track, staying on the path, and keep taking action and moving towards what I really want. So he says, last weekend didn't go smooth. I drove to see her again, and when I arrived, she asked me if I brought something which was stored at my place, and I forgot it the second time in a row. That's not good. Women like it when a guy says they're going to do something, they don't do it. It causes them to doubt your masculine core. She was bitchy and told me it's not easy to have a forgetful boyfriend. Well, the reason she was bitchy is because you forced her to move into her masculine when you did that, because then she starts to doubt, can I really let this guy take the lead in the relationship? Can I trust his masculine core? It causes a woman to feel wishy-washy inside and that she can't trust you and the things that you say. And plus she's going to look at it and think, well, if he really loved me and he really cared about me, he would actually do the things that he said he was going to do. He would make himself a note or a message in his iCalendar on his cell phone or whatever it happens to be. He'd figure it out. He'd leave himself a Post-it note. He'd find a way. But since he consistently doesn't do it, he probably really doesn't care about me. He says, I know that made her doubt my masculine core, and I told her in response that it's also not easy to have a demanding girlfriend. Wrong. That's not the correct thing to say. What you should have said is, honey, you're right. I fucking totally suck. You know what? I definitely will make it up to you. I'm gonna make a note right now. I'm gonna tape it to the visor in my car. I'm gonna put a reminder in my phone, so next time I see you, I'm definitely gonna bring it. I'm really sorry. What can I do to make up to you, sweetheart? Have I told you how beautiful you look today and how hot you look in that dress? And she goes, don't talk to me like that. Also, baby, I love it when I think you're so sexy when you get angry. And you deserve to be angry right now, but you're so beautiful and you're so charming. I'm so glad to see you. Come over here and kiss me. I'm sorry. That's how you handle that, dude. But you don't start using logic and reason and go, well, you're a pain in the ass. You're a fucking very demanding girlfriend. It's like it's a bad way to go, because all she hears is you don't love me, you don't care about me enough to bring the stuff back that I asked you to do. That's what she hears. That's why she gets even more bitchy. So he says, I also told her it's not easy to have a demanding girlfriend since I took care of other stuff for her during the week, like helping her find a new place to live and solved issues with her insurance company. She told me that we should skip more weekends starting with next weekend because she wants time for herself. So basically she's putting distance between you because she's just basically saying, you don't give a shit about me anyway, so why should we spend time together next weekend? Because she feels all rejected. She doesn't feel like you care about her. And her attraction level obviously is starting to wane when you're forcing her into her masculine because you're not taking care of the things you said you're going to take care of. At the end of the day, the core issue is you're not keeping your word with her. It doesn't matter that all the other 5 things you did, you've remembered. The point being is there's the one thing you forgot, and then you try to justify your actions instead of apologizing for it. He said, I knew my actions made her lose attraction. I was in such an angry state of mind that I packed my stuff and left. So you took your toys and went home. She begged me not to leave, which I ignored. And when I got out of the garage, she called and told me to please come back because I'm tired, and she's very sorry about what she said, and she had a stressful day, and she doesn't want me to leave in an angry state. I forgot my phone in the car and saw that she blew my phone up with calls and texts while I was going to the garage. I slept over, and it's like, dude, you're really an emotional guy. This is like the 3rd email of his I've answered an email. I've done a few phone sessions with him, but he cracks me up, man. He says, I slept over, and she was surprised I didn't change my intention to leave. And we talked about our relationship, and I told her that her actions made me think that she is unappreciative of me since I'm making the most out of this relationship, and it takes 2 for a healthy relationship, and I can't do it on my own. Those are good things to say. So he said, skipping the next weekend, which is her birthday, made me think she doesn't care and amplifies my impression that I'm only her slave boy. Well, I would say it's like your actions, you're kind of making her feel like you don't care about her. And plus, at the end of the day, it's like, when you get together with her, it's like one of the things I would say about your girl is that she's not real flexible. Because if she was flexible, she'd say, you know what, I appreciate the fact you got these other things, but you should have apologized to her. But, you know, she could have said, you know what, I appreciate all these other things you did to me, and I'll let that one thing slide. So I'd appreciate if you just apologize for it. She could be a better communicator. That would definitely help out as well. But nobody's perfect. Everybody's got flaws and faults, and at the end of the day, you're the one that's paying me to help you, and so you're the only one whose attention I have. I can't help her because she's not paying me to coach her. So the only thing I can do is help you become a better communicator and communicate to her how to be a better communicator. She asked me what she can do to contribute to the relationship more. How about be a better communicator? How about be more understanding? How about not give me so much shit when I forget one thing, but ignore all the other good things that I do for you? How about that? That would really help. That would cause me not to want to leave. He says, I told her that she didn't take care of contraception and didn't go to the gynecologist, putting it off several weeks, which made my forgetting the thing in my place seem ridiculous. Okay, so you forgot her birth control pills, and she was too lazy to go to the drugstore and get some new ones. Okay, it's understandable. She was ignoring it out of fear of the effects on her hormones, and I let her talk about it and resolved it by listening. Good job. She told me she's going to take care of it and what else she can do. I told her that she needs to show me through her gratitude and through her actions. It would be nice if I didn't need to pay for 90% of our activities. I was sick that day, and she told me she's going to give me some medicine, get breakfast, and offered me a massage. This is a good conversation. You're asking good quality questions of each other here. I like this. I slept the whole afternoon after that, and I was fine and went shopping. A guy was hitting on her while I was browsing for other stuff, and she didn't understand what he was saying because she doesn't speak the local language. I went up and translated what he was saying. I wasn't threatening, I just presented myself in my usual way, and the guy was so intimidated that he left without saying a word. Little doggy with his tail between his legs. In the evening, she mentioned that her mother was upset that I'm not moving to her because we used to live together in the past, and she thinks our relationship took a step back, and her mother told her to find someone else. Yes, isn't it nice when you got parents like that? And it just reminds me, like my mother's parents didn't like my dad, and he actually drove over to my dad's parents' house, and my grandfather actually told my dad, I will pay you not to marry my daughter. I will pay you to leave and get out of her life for good. And my dad basically told me he can fucking pound sand because whether he liked it or not, he was going to marry her daughter, whether he supported it or not. He didn't give a shit. And obviously my dad's parents didn't like the fact that they didn't think enough of their son to want to marry, that he was good enough for their daughter, and therefore, you know, for many years, my grandmother just was an asshole to my mother, and that just didn't help. Finally, it got to the point where I was in my early teenager, and my mother was like, fuck them, I'm done trying to get their approval and get them to like me. I don't want anything to do with them anymore. Fuck them. And my mother never had anything else to do with them ever again. He says, I told her that I don't care what her mother thinks and that she hates me anyway. She told me that living together would make the relationship easier, and I told her that I don't want to leave my hometown since I work from home and I need my social circle to balance that out. On Sunday, she was all sweet again, and she told me that she wants to come over next weekend to celebrate her birthday, and we started fucking like rabbits. Awesome. Once again, you stated your purpose to her. You were strong, and you said what was on your mind, and you were willing to leave because you didn't like how she was treating you. You were standing up for yourself. And then at the end of it, you started asking each other really good quality questions, because the quality of your relationship is going to be in direct proportion to the quality of the questions that you consistently ask one another. He says, after that, she asked me to stay longer, but I couldn't due to other things that I had planned. How do you think I handled the weekend overall? Overall, you did pretty fucking good. It was a little rough, but hey, you know, you did it in your own way, but you still got the desired result. He says, another situation was caused testing from her side. We were at work, at a work event of hers, and we got into a conversation about her hometown. And I said that people from her country speak a retarded version of the language, and that the guy that we were talking to told me that he was from that country, which I replied with a smirk, oops, I'm still not changing my opinion because of that. That's pretty fucking funny, actually. She was upset and told me not to be rude when talking to her coworkers. This guy's from Europe, and this particular country, these people from this country, they're just arrogant, and they think they're better than everybody else. Even they got the shit kicked out of them in World War II. And I busted his balls about this during our phone session, because I have another buddy of mine that's also from this country, and he's a fucking trip. They think they're better than everybody else, even though they're not. He says, I need to add something else that I left out. He says, I just figured out that my girlfriend hid her relationship status, and I don't know when this happened, but what makes me even more suspicious is that she was online and Facebook chat the whole day lately, but not contacting me. I told you that she cheated on her ex-boyfriends and lined up their replacements. Well, if she ever falls out of love with you, that's exactly what she's going to do to you, and that's just the way she is. So as long as she's happy, you can trust her. But if she's not happy, she will line up a replacement. That's just the way this particular girl is. He says, I think that is now happening to me since she didn't contact me as often as in the past, which was every day, and when she did, it was because of stuff that I needed to take care of for her. Really weird behavior that makes me totally suspicious. It doesn't really fit into her behavior towards me. How would you handle this? Give her enough rope and see if she hangs herself. I mean, that's all you can really do at this particular point. Like I said, just look at her actions. If you're doing everything right and she's happy, and when you get together, it's fun, it's positive, you're hanging out, you're having fun, you're hooking up, you're fucking like rabbits, as you say, then everything would be great. But at the end of the day, that's the kind of woman that you're with. She's the kind of woman that will cheat when she's not happy. She'll line up the replacement so she doesn't have to deal with being single. So if you'd like to get my help personally, the quickest way is to book a paid phone session or Skype session or email coaching, and you can do any of those options by going to my website, clicking the products tab at the top of your screen, and follow the instructions. And I will talk to you soon.